And when he was able to finish his 10th standard, his parents, who are both educators, wanted him to go out and work in the mainstream. So we got him a job in a placement agency, where all that he had to do was convert the CVs to PDF. And you know how easy that is. It's scroll down, select PDF, and save it that way. But within 3 weeks, the managing director of the company says, I don't want to patronize this community. Can you please take him back? So he was back with us. But today, he heads the organization at the core center. Given the right environment, he comes at 7:30 in the morning, he supervises the cleaning at Amba. He says, it's my building. He thereafter goes to the server room, he downloads the work, he disseminates, we have about 7 jobs that we're doing at Amba, at the core center. He disseminates the work to all the different sections at Amba. And he takes care of petty cash. Now, I was told that youngsters cannot work with numbers. But even if I go back without an appropriate bill, he says, I cannot accept it, ma'am. And that's how we are able to maintain the kind of transparency that we do at Amba. But clearly today, when I was going through many, many movies on, you have so many advocates today in our community. What came through was that they don't want us to feel sorry for them. They don't want us to patronize them. They don't like to be called special or differently able. Why give them these labels? What they want and what they want to communicate is that they are exactly like you and I in their needs. And their needs are very, very simple. Clearly, what also came through is they want to be educated, they want to learn skills, and they want to work with dignity. So at Amba, what we put in place, there are actually 3 verticals to what we do at Amba. The first vertical is the training that we put in place. The training is using ICT, IT, and peer-driven processes. So in the first phase of training, we use the computer as a tool to reinforce the alphabets as an image. In the second phase of training, we take them into the computer and take them into functional learning within existing programs that are there. So if you take them into Paint, they have fun in Paint, but they get to use the mouse without theory, because theory is disastrous for our children. And if I may get your attention to the fact that at Amba we are working with moderate to severe intellectual disabilities. We are not working with people who have higher ability, who can be placed outside doing repetitive work in the mainstream. But having taken them through this in about 6 months to maybe 3.5 years, depending on the ability of the people that we are training, they can do 2-window visual data entry accurately. We have pushed them towards also doing visual audits of supporting documents. But for 7 years, I went around helter-skelter trying to see how I could get work to all our partner centers all over India. And I found it really hard, and I realized why. Because every time I brought a client to the client's attention to that particular partnership that we had, I found that our children were groping on the keys. So what we did in 2013 was we factored in a simulation of live work using dummy forms. So like a pilot crashes in a simulator, and then it's only when he stopped crashing that, he sits in a passenger aircraft and flies. All of us, thank God for that. Our youngsters also maximize their efficiency in the simulation phase using dummy forms. I'd like to at this point just quickly introduce you to 3 youngsters who are one of many at our core center. This young boy called Ravi Kiran, when he came to us, he couldn't even put pen to paper. It took us 3.5 years for us to get through the minimum training which means I started with a newspaper, scribbling on a large piece of newspaper, and then folding it down to half the size, and then half again, until finally we came to an A4 size. And thereafter we brought him to the computer. Today Ravi Kiran is a multitasker. This boy who had no coordination whatsoever is part of the hardware team, and he's the one who fixes the laptops outside for training. He can do 12 forms of 64 field data entry accurately without a mistake. He's also part of the training team that takes training to the special educators, the visiting special educators who come to us for training. But the most important thing is today he travels 30 kilometers changing 2 buses because of this visual methodology. He looks at the number on his bus pass, matches it to the number on the bus, and that's how he comes to work. And he hasn't lost his way once in the last 12 years. This is a very sweet and quick story. Chandani, when she came to us and she got her first salary, she went to her grandmother and said, "Dadi, my papa and I are the only 2 people who work in this family." This may be of interest to special educators. I still haven't figured this out. But Sunil was in the first batch in 2004 when I started this organization. In 2013, January, he came to me and he said, "Ma'am, I can do 42 forms." And till then, he could do only about 5 forms with support from one of his mentors who was also intellectually disabled. But when I went there, I saw he could do 42 forms. That's the way. Some children take longer and some children can do it sooner, but eventually all of them get there. Now the danger when you're working with people with moderate to severe intellectual disabilities is that you have to implement their learning into work. If you don't do that, very often and most of the time, they digress back to where you started. So what's the point of training? So in the first few years, right up to 2013, Amba was sustainable without funding. It was sustainable with work because of all the companies that you see out there. But then in 2015, automation hit us. My colleague Shyam, who's here, Director Marketing, and I had presented at the United Nations where everybody was talking about automation and robotics and all of that. And I told Shyam, I said, we'll take a little longer. But we came back on the 24th of September. First week of October, I got a call from Nagpur. 150 youngsters who were doing the data entry of 10,000 forms nearly every day of the inflow of milk from farmers and SNG to the collection centers of Dinshaw ice cream. They had lost work to automation. So 150 families had been impacted. So Shyam and I just took the next flight and we went back there, and on the way I met this amazing gentleman who actually within 24 hours got us Reliance work to do. But then the head of this institution, she was empowered by now, she said, "I'm not happy with this 1 rupee per form. I'm going to get work from somewhere else." And today they are getting work from overseas, and these youngsters are going to be paid much, much more. We have done a lot of work in the last year, post the automation phase. Well, you see the companies out there, we've done live work for all of them at the core center. But what is really our journey forward? I'm hoping, well, the universe has been working towards, what we do, so I'm hoping that we will get there, is we are going live doing work within artificial intelligence, face mapping for enhancing security. And the first job that we're going live with in the first week of April is for an organization called Path Partner that is doing preventive artificial intelligence for, the public transport in the US to prevent accidents. When a person is sleepy, it recognizes that the person is sleepy or is about to, or asleep already. So it's a preventive measure. But I will take too much time if I go into detail on that, so I'm going to go forward, but I'm here to answer any questions if anybody wants to later. Every youngster in our center is a data operator, a trainer, and also a quality check person. Because you can get work out of sympathy, but if you don't deliver, you will not get work even the next day. So you've got to deliver all the SLAs of the client that you got the work from, and we do that. As you can see, our journey was very slow. Right up to 2013, we were just 31 centers. 12 centers I took work to in various, and all of them lost work to automation over a period of time. But what was empowering was 2 centers went out and got work for themselves and are still sustainable today. 13 centers, so thereafter from 2013 to 2015, we scaled another 45 centers, partnered with Tata Trust. We have a huge team today. We have collaborated with 100 more centers in 2015-16, 200 more centers in 16-17. And what are our collaborations? Our collaborations are very simple. We use their infrastructure, we collaborate with special institutions, we use their infrastructure, we use their trainers, we start with the first 20 children from their organization, and we help them become hubs for learning and earning. We don't leave them alone in this journey. I have a team of 83 people who don't support the core center, but they are there using ICT and IT, communicating with these partnerships every day and taking them forward, all the way into work. The impact is obvious. Everyone likes to be a part of the IT world, and our children love that too. Parents have started to talk less about the disability. They are proud of the fact that their youngsters are data operators. Institutions are also getting extremely empowered. They find that doing something productive brings in a lot more support to the institution. We've been recognized extensively, but what we are more proud of are the 3 recognitions that we've got for peers out there. Sijo got the Helen Keller Award in 2015 for being a role model employee. Priya with an IQ of 51 got the CI Women Exemplar 2013 for education. And this year, one of our youngsters, Bharati, who was there in the movie, she is being nominated. She's not just being nominated, she's finalist for CII Women Exemplar 2017 for education. So, Amba doesn't believe in working alone. We invite every special institution present here to work with us so that, we build catalysts who can take this movement forward into tomorrow. We, all of us, want a better tomorrow for our community of persons with Down syndrome. Thank you so much for this.